Racist Karen blocks a black man from entering his own hotel. Security's response is jaw-dropping. The opulent lobby of the Fortune Hotel, a beacon of luxury in the heart of New York City, falls silent as tension crackles through the air. A well-dressed black man stands before the elevator, briefcase in hand, his posture calm but resolute. Blocking his path is a middle-aged white woman, her face contorted with indignation, her voice shrill as it cuts through the stunned silence. "You don't belong here," she declares, her finger jabbing accusatorily at the man's chest. "I've been watching you, and I know you're not a guest. You need to leave right now before I call security." The man, his voice steady and controlled, responds, "Ma'am, I assure you, I am a guest at this hotel. I've been staying here all week. Please step aside and allow me to access the elevator." The woman's eyes narrow, her lips curling into a sneer. "Prove it," she demands. "Show me your room key right now, or I'm calling the police." As onlookers begin to gather, smartphones raised to capture the unfolding drama, the air grows thick with anticipation. What started as a simple trip to his room has suddenly thrust this man into the center of a storm, one that will test his resolve, challenge societal norms, and potentially change the course of his life forever. This incident, captured on multiple bystanders' cell phones, would soon ignite a firestorm of controversy and spark a national conversation about racial profiling and implicit bias in America. The black man, later identified as Mike Ross, a successful lawyer and entrepreneur, found himself at the epicenter of a viral video that would send shockwaves through social media and beyond. What transpired in those tense moments would not only change Mike's life, but also force a reckoning within the hospitality industry and society at large. This documentary explores how a single act of discrimination can expose deep-seated societal issues and catalyze meaningful change, examining the power of resilience, the importance of allyship, and the ongoing struggle for racial equality in America. Through Mike Ross's experience, we will witness the ripple effects of one confrontation and how it challenges us all to confront our biases and stand up for justice. Before we continue, tell us where you're watching from in the comment section, and if you are a lover of justice and inspirational stories, don't forget to like, comment, and hit the subscribe button for more of these gripping stories. Mike Ross is a 35-year-old Harvard-educated lawyer and tech entrepreneur whose journey is a testament to resilience and determination. Growing up in a working-class neighborhood in Chicago, Mike faced numerous challenges, from financial instability to systemic barriers that often accompanied his race. His parents instilled in him the values of hard work and education, pushing him to excel academically despite the odds stacked against him. With a brilliant mind and a photographic memory, Mike quickly gained a reputation for thinking outside the box. His ability to analyze complex problems and devise innovative solutions has made him a sought-after figure in the tech industry. As he navigated through law school and into the corporate world, Mike became known not just for his intellect but also for his commitment to advocating for diversity and inclusion within the tech community. His success story is one of triumph over adversity, embodying the spirit of perseverance that inspires many. The incident unfolds at the luxurious Fortune Hotel, a 5-star establishment located in the heart of New York City. On this particular Friday evening in June 2025, the hotel lobby is alive with energy, filled with a diverse mix of business travelers and tourists eager to explore the vibrant city. The air is thick with anticipation as guests check in, while others gather in small groups, sharing stories of their adventures. The lobby's elegant decor features marble floors, high ceilings adorned with crystal chandeliers, and plush seating areas where guests can relax. The atmosphere is one of sophistication and exclusivity, yet it is also a microcosm of society, reflecting both privilege and prejudice. As Mike enters the hotel after a long day filled with meetings and presentations, he carries not just his briefcase but also the weight of expectations, both his own and those imposed by society. Enter Karen Smith, a 52-year-old wealthy socialite from Manhattan's Upper East Side. Dressed in designer clothing that screams affluence, Karen is known among hotel staff for her frequent complaints about undesirable guests who she believes tarnish the hotel's reputation. Her privileged background has fostered an insular worldview that often manifests itself in racially insensitive comments and actions. Karen's sense of entitlement is palpable. She believes that her status grants her authority over others, particularly those she perceives as out of place. Throughout her years as a guest at various luxury hotels, she has made it her mission to ensure that only those who fit her narrow definition of acceptable are allowed to enjoy the same spaces she frequents. Mike's visit to New York is not just another business trip, it marks a significant milestone in his career. He is in town for a major tech conference where he has been invited to be a keynote speaker, a recognition of his expertise and contributions to the industry. For the past week, he has been staying at the Fortune Hotel, using its amenities as both a workspace and a temporary home. Earlier that day, Mike successfully closed a substantial deal for his startup, a moment he had worked tirelessly towards for months. As he prepares for his presentation later that evening, he feels a mix of excitement and nerves. This conference represents not only an opportunity to showcase his work but also to inspire others who share similar backgrounds. However, as Mike approaches the elevator after what should have been a triumphant day, he senses an undercurrent of tension brewing in the lobby, a feeling he cannot quite place until it manifests itself in Karen's confrontational stance. Across the lobby stands Mrs. Evelyn Johnson, a 75-year-old retired civil rights activist whose presence adds another layer to this unfolding drama. She is at the hotel for her granddaughter's wedding, a joyous occasion that should be filled with celebration but now finds itself overshadowed by an all-too-familiar scene. As Mrs. Johnson observes Karen's aggressive behavior toward Mike from her vantage point, memories flood back, memories of her own experiences with racial discrimination during the civil rights movement. With each shout from Karen and each calm response from Mike, Mrs. Johnson feels compelled to act. She pulls out her phone and begins recording what she perceives as an egregious case of racial profiling, a moment that encapsulates not just one man's struggle but echoes generations of injustice. Mrs. Johnson knows all too well how quickly such incidents can escalate or be dismissed if not documented properly. She feels an urgency to bear witness to this encounter, hoping that by capturing it on video, she can contribute to raising awareness about racial bias in today's society. How will this confrontation unfold, and what impact will it have on Mike's life and career? As tensions rise in the hotel lobby, will Mike find allies among those witnessing this injustice? Will Mrs. Johnson's recording change how this story is told? And how will this pivotal moment shape their lives moving forward? As Mike stands his ground, Karen's demeanor shifts from indignation to outright hostility. Her voice rises, echoing through the marble lobby as she loudly accuses Mike of attempting to sneak into the hotel. "I've been watching you," she shouts, her finger jabbing the air between them. "You've been loitering here all day, pretending to belong." "Well, I'm not fooled." Karen's face flushes red with anger as she demands to see Mike's room key and identification. "Show me your key card right now," she insists, her hand outstretched expectantly. "And I want to see some ID. How do we know you're not here to rob the place?" Mike, taken aback by the escalating situation, calmly explains that he's been a guest at the hotel for several days. But Karen is unmoved. She turns to the gathering crowd, seeking validation for her suspicions. "Can't you all see what's happening here?" She appeals to the onlookers. "This man doesn't belong in a place like this. He's clearly up to no good." Frustrated by Mike's refusal to comply with her demands, Karen marches to the front desk. The click of her heels on the marble floor punctuates the tense silence that has fallen over the lobby. Leaning over the counter, she insists that the staff call security immediately. "There's an intruder in the hotel," she declares loudly. "He needs to be removed before he causes any trouble." Throughout Karen's tirade, Mike maintains a composed demeanor, though the strain of the situation is evident in the tightness around his eyes and the set of his jaw. He takes a deep breath, centering himself before responding. "Ma'am," he begins, his voice steady and clear, "I understand you're concerned, but I assure you, I am a legitimate guest at this hotel. I've been staying here all week for a business conference." Mike stands tall, his posture conveying both confidence and weariness. He's faced situations like this before, though perhaps not as public or intense. I'm not obligated to prove my status to you or any other guest, he explains patiently. If you have concerns, I suggest you speak with hotel management rather than confronting me directly. As Karen continues to demand his ID and room key, Mike shakes his head firmly. No, I won't be showing you my personal information. You have no authority to request that from me. He gestures towards the elevator, attempting to sidestep Karen. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'd like to return to my room. Mike's calm refusal seems to further agitate Karen, who positions herself more firmly in front of the elevator. Recognizing the need to de-escalate, Mike takes a step back, hands raised slightly in a placating gesture. Look, he says, his tone measured, I understand you're upset, but this situation is unnecessary. Why don't we both take a moment to calm down? I'm sure we can resolve this without further conflict. The arrival of hotel security marks a pivotal moment in the confrontation. Two guards, responding to the front desk's call, approach the scene with caution. Their eyes dart between Karen, still red-faced and gesticulating wildly, and Mike, who stands with his hands visible, maintaining his composure. The lead security guard, a middle-aged man with a stern expression, addresses Mike first. Sir, we've received a complaint about a disturbance. Can you explain what's going on here? The guard's tone is professional but tinged with suspicion, his body language suggesting he views Mike as the potential threat. Before Mike can respond, Karen interjects, her voice shrill with triumph. Finally! This man has been trying to sneak into the hotel. He refuses to show ID or a room key. He clearly doesn't belong here. Her words carry a weight of implicit bias, laden with assumptions about who does and doesn't belong in a luxury hotel. Emboldened by the security presence, Karen's comments become increasingly racially charged. Just look at him, she sneers, gesturing at Mike's appearance. He doesn't fit the profile of our usual guests. I bet he stole that suit to try and blend in. Probably planning to rob the rooms while everyone's out. The crowd that has gathered in the lobby grows larger, with guests and passers-by drawn to the unfolding drama. Smartphones appear in hands, their camera lenses trained on the confrontation. The air buzzes with whispered comments and the soft beeps of recording devices being activated. Amidst the growing chaos, a voice cuts through the noise. Mrs. Evelyn Johnson, the elderly black woman who had been quietly observing, steps forward. Her presence commands attention, her years of experience in civil rights activism evident in her dignified bearing. Young man, she addresses the security guard, her voice firm but kind, I've been watching this entire incident unfold, and I can assure you that this gentleman has done nothing wrong. She turns to Mike, offering a supportive nod. I've seen him in the hotel throughout the week. He's a guest here, just like me. Mrs. Johnson then faces Karen, her eyes sharp with disapproval. What I have witnessed here is a clear case of racial profiling. This young man has been nothing but polite and composed in the face of unwarranted accusations. It's shameful to see such behavior in this day and age. Her words send a ripple through the crowd. Some nod in agreement, while others shift uncomfortably, forced to confront their own biases. The security guards exchange glances, suddenly unsure of how to proceed. Karen, momentarily stunned by Mrs. Johnson's intervention, quickly recovers. This has nothing to do with race, she protests, her voice rising in pitch. I'm just trying to keep this hotel safe. Why won't he just show his ID if he has nothing to hide? The situation teeters on a knife's edge. The security guards look torn between their initial suspicions and the new information presented by Mrs. Johnson. The crowd watches with bated breath, waiting to see how this tense standoff will resolve. With tensions rising and a crowd gathering, how will hotel security handle this delicate situation? Will they side with Karen's unfounded accusations, or will they recognize the racial bias at play? How will Mike navigate this increasingly public confrontation, and what role will Mrs. Johnson's intervention play in shaping the outcome? As smartphones continue to record, how might the viral potential of this incident impact the hotel's response and the broader conversation about racial profiling in America? As the tension in the lobby reaches its peak, a new figure emerges from the crowd. It's Marcus Thompson, the head of hotel security, who has been alerted to the commotion. His eyes widen in recognition as he spots Mike amidst the chaos. "Mr. Ross," he calls out, pushing through the throng of onlookers. Marcus approaches Mike, his demeanor shifting from concern to embarrassment. "Mr. Ross, I sincerely apologize for this situation. I recognize you from your check-in earlier this week. You're one of our VIP guests for the tech conference, correct?" Mike nods, relief washing over his face. "Yes, that's correct. I've been staying here all week." Marcus turns to address Karen and the other security guards. "This gentleman is indeed a valued guest of our hotel. There's been a grave misunderstanding here." Karen's face pales as she realizes her mistake. She stammers, trying to backpedal, but Marcus cuts her off. "Ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to come with me. We need to discuss your behavior and its implications." As Karen is led away by another security guard, Marcus addresses the crowd. "Ladies and gentlemen, we apologize for this disturbance. The Fortune Hotel does not condone discrimination of any kind. We will be reviewing this incident thoroughly and taking appropriate action." Mike's phone buzzes incessantly with messages of support from colleagues, friends, and even strangers who've seen the video. His inbox is filled with interview requests from major news networks and invitations to speak at diversity and inclusion events. In the days following the incident, Mike finds himself thrust into the spotlight as an unwitting symbol of the ongoing struggle against racial bias. After careful consideration, he decides to use this platform to address the larger issues at play. In a powerful op-ed piece for a major newspaper, Mike writes, "What happened to me at the Fortune Hotel is not an isolated incident. It's a symptom of a deeper, systemic problem that continues to plague our society. We must confront our biases, both conscious and unconscious, if we hope to create a truly equitable world." Mike partners with several civil rights organizations to develop comprehensive training programs for the hospitality industry. These programs focus on recognizing and addressing implicit bias, promoting inclusive practices, and fostering a welcoming environment for all guests. He also begins working closely with the Fortune Hotel's management team. Together, they craft new diversity and inclusion policies that go beyond mere lip service. These policies include mandatory bias training for all staff, the establishment of a diverse advisory board to guide hotel practices, and a zero-tolerance policy for discriminatory behavior from guests or employees. The Fortune Hotel's proactive response sets a new standard for the industry. Other hotel chains, eager to avoid similar incidents and recognizing the importance of inclusivity, begin to adopt similar policies. The incident becomes a case study in hospitality management courses, highlighting the importance of diversity, equity, and inclusion in the service industry. While the confrontation at the Fortune Hotel was undoubtedly traumatic for Mike, its ripple effects lead to significant positive changes. Hotels across the nation begin to reevaluate their policies and training procedures, placing a greater emphasis on cultural competence and bias recognition. Mike's composure and dignity throughout the ordeal, coupled with his thoughtful response in its aftermath, inspire others to stand up against discrimination. His story becomes a rallying point for those fighting against racial profiling, demonstrating the power of resilience and the importance of speaking out against injustice. Mrs. Evelyn Johnson, whose intervention played a crucial role in the incident's resolution, becomes a celebrated figure in her own right. Her actions serve as a powerful reminder of the impact that bystanders can have in confronting discrimination. The incident at the Fortune Hotel, while highlighting the persistent problem of racial bias in America, also showcases the potential for positive change. It underscores the ongoing need for vigilance and action in the fight against racism, reminding us that progress often comes through difficult conversations and confrontations with uncomfortable truths. As Mike reflects on the experience months later, he notes, "What happened that day was bigger than me. It was a wake-up call for many and a reminder for others. The work is far from over, but I'm hopeful. Every time someone stands up against injustice, we move one step closer to the equitable society we all deserve." How can this incident serve as a catalyst for broader societal change? As we've seen, one incident can spark a national conversation and lead to tangible policy changes. But how can we ensure that the momentum generated by such events translates into lasting, systemic change? What role do individuals, corporations, and institutions play in dismantling the structures that allow racial bias to persist? And how can we harness the power of social media and public discourse to keep these important issues at the forefront of our collective consciousness? As we conclude this exploration of Mike Ross's experience and its far-reaching consequences, it's crucial to recognize that the fight against racial discrimination is not just a spectator sport. Each of us has a role to play in creating a more just and equitable society. Let's examine some concrete steps we can all take. 1. Examine your own biases. The first step in addressing racial bias is acknowledging that we all have them. These biases, often unconscious, are shaped by our upbringing, media consumption, and societal norms. Take the time to reflect on your own thoughts and behaviors. Consider taking the Implicit Association Test, IAT, developed by Harvard University. This online tool can help you uncover hidden biases you may not be aware of. Keep a journal to track your thoughts and reactions in various situations. Look for patterns that might reveal underlying biases. Challenge your assumptions. When you find yourself making quick judgments about people based on their race, pause and question where those thoughts come from. 2. Educate yourself. Commit to ongoing learning about racial issues and the experiences of marginalized communities. Read books by authors of color that discuss race and racism. Some recommendations include How to Be an Anti-Racist by Ibram X. Kendi, White Fragility by Robin DiAngelo, and The New Jim Crow by Michelle Alexander. Watch documentaries and films that explore racial issues, such as 13th, I Am Not Your Negro, or When They See Us. Attend workshops, webinars, or lectures on diversity, equity, and inclusion. 3. Speak up. When you witness discrimination or racial bias, don't remain silent. Practice using your voice in low-stakes situations so you're prepared when it really matters. Learn phrases that can help you interrupt bias, such as "What did you mean by that?" or "That comment makes me uncomfortable." Remember, silence in the face of discrimination can be interpreted as agreement. 4. Support organizations fighting for racial justice. There are numerous organizations working tirelessly to combat racial discrimination. Consider supporting them through donations, volunteering, or amplifying their messages. The NAACP Legal Defense and Educational Fund. The Equal Justice Initiative. Color of Change. The American Civil Liberties Union, ACLU. Local grassroots organizations in your community. 5. Report discrimination. If you experience or witness racial discrimination, it's important to report it. In a workplace setting, contact your Human Resources Department or use any anonymous reporting systems available. For discrimination in public accommodations, like hotels, restaurants, or stores, contact the U.S. Department of Justice's Civil Rights Division. Use platforms like the Southern Poverty Law Center's Stand Against Hate reporting tool to document hate incidents. 6. Advocate for policy changes. Systemic change often requires policy interventions. Stay informed about local and national policies that affect racial equity. Contact your representatives to express support for anti-discrimination legislation. Vote for candidates who prioritize racial justice and equality. 7. Practice inclusive behavior. In your daily life, make conscious efforts to be more inclusive. Diversify your social and professional circles. Amplify voices from marginalized communities in your workplace and social settings. Challenge stereotypes and microaggressions when you encounter them. As we reflect on Mike Ross's story and its aftermath, it's clear that individual actions can indeed spark systemic change. The ripple effects of that one confrontation in the hotel lobby extended far beyond that moment, influencing corporate policies, public discourse, and individual behaviors. The power of allyship cannot be overstated. Mrs. Evelyn Johnson's intervention reminds us that speaking up in the face of injustice can make a profound difference. It's not always easy to be the voice that challenges discrimination, but it's in these moments of courage that real change begins to take root. However, it's crucial to understand that the struggle for equality is ongoing. The incident at the Fortune Hotel is not an isolated event, but rather a symptom of deeper, systemic issues that persist in our society. Each step forward may be met with resistance, and progress can sometimes feel frustratingly slow. This is where the role of each individual becomes paramount. Every time we choose to confront our own biases, speak up against discrimination, or support initiatives for racial justice, we contribute to the larger movement for equality. These actions, however small they may seem, accumulate over time to create significant change. Moreover, the fight against racial discrimination is not the sole responsibility of those who experience it. Allies play a crucial role in this struggle. By using their privilege to amplify marginalized voices, challenge systemic inequities, and educate others, allies can help shoulder the burden of this ongoing work. As we conclude, let's remember that the path to a truly equitable society is a marathon, not a sprint. It requires sustained effort, ongoing education, and a commitment to justice that extends beyond moments of high-profile incidents. The work may be challenging, but the rewards, a fairer, more inclusive world for all, are immeasurable. In the words of the civil rights leader John Lewis, do not get lost in a sea of despair. Be hopeful, be optimistic. Our struggle is not the struggle of a day, a week, a month, or a year. It is the struggle of a lifetime. Never, ever be afraid to make some noise and get in good trouble, necessary trouble. Let Mike Ross's experience serve not just as a cautionary tale, but as a call to action. Let it remind us that change is possible, that our voices matter, and that each of us has the power to contribute to a more just and equitable world. The journey may be long, but with each step, each action, each voice raised against injustice, we move closer to the society we aspire to create. As you leave this documentary, carry with you not just the knowledge of what happened, but a renewed commitment to be part of the solution. Remember, in the face of injustice, silence is not an option. Speak up, stand up, and be the change you wish to see in the world. Please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe for more of this gripping story.